All right, welcome back. Welcome back. This is part 14 of a series in trying to use factoring or the different types of factoring in order to find zeros. And so I'd like to continue on discussing how to factor using perfect squares, right? These are special products. All right, so here we have 4x squared minus 16y squared. What I'd like to show you in factoring these in any expression or equation, you want to use greatest common factor first. You want to kind of check to see what can I divide evenly into both of these terms, 4x squared and negative 16y squared. And the other thing I wanted to point out, if there's nothing that you can find in the greatest common factor, then of course you would try the other methods of factoring that I have shown you, that I will be showing you here in these videos, and then finally using the quadratic equation in standard form in order to factor. So let's move forward. When working with perfect squares, you can see here, this is an x squared and this is a y squared. And I know x times x is going to be x squared, and y times y would give me y squared. So I know in trying to set up this factoring, I can have two set of parentheses. The x's will be at the front and the y's are going to be in the back. All right, because again, that gives me y times y is y squared, x times x is x squared. So I can kind of set up a framework of what I'm going to do. Now I just got to fill in the details, right? And so I'm going to look here. I'm going to determine, hey, is there a number that I can divide evenly into both negative 16 and 4? Remember, this is kind of like my framework. I'm just going to fill in the plus and or the minus terms here. And so step one, you want to find a number or letter, that's the variable, that will divide evenly into both of the terms that we just talked about here. That's the greatest common factor between these two terms. Now, I only have a y over here with the term on the right, and I only have x's here on the term with the left. So I cannot factor, or there's no greatest common factor with these letter or variables. Now, negative 16 and a positive 4, there is a greatest common factor. And I want to find what that greatest common factor is between these two numbers and terms. So I'm going to show you that here next. I'm trying not to... All right, let's take a look. So these are all, remember, this is the factor tree I've kind of showed you. And these are the numbers that would multiply to a positive 4 and a negative 16, right? So 1 times 4, 2 times 2, negative 2 times a negative 2 will give me a positive 4. Negative 1 times 16, 1 times negative 16, negative 2 times 8, 2 times a negative 8, negative 4 times a positive 4, and a positive 4 times a negative 4 will give me a product, answer to a multiplication problem of negative 16. Woo, got to get that tongue out of the way. Now, as you can see, both of these terms share a 2. They both share a positive 2, right? 2 times a negative 8 gives me a negative 16. 2 times 2 gives me 4. But there's a larger or greater number they both share. 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times a negative 4 is negative 16. So the greatest common factor between these two terms is a positive 4. A positive 4. And if you look back up here at the term, I'm looking for two numbers that would multiply to that negative 16, but it would add up to be 0, right? There's no x and y term here in the middle. So I'm looking at positive 4, negative 4, right? That number, raise it up a little more, that number will divide evenly into both terms, right? That positive 4. So that's the greatest common factor. I want to divide 4 into negative 16. I want to divide 4 into the positive 4. That will then, I'll factor out the 4 from both of the terms, and that will leave me the numbers that I'll just fill in here and I will be done with factoring this particular problem. So let's go ahead and keep on keeping on. Let's just take a look here. As you can see, 4 and 4 will be divided evenly into both of those terms. And I'm showing you here that, again, we have that -4 here. And what two numbers would multiply to a -4? Because if you remember, these, we're going to take the terms inside the parentheses and put them into two parentheses, right? And we've already factored out that 4, so it goes on the outside. What's remaining? 4 divided by 4 is 1x squared plus a -4, right? -16 divided by 4 is a -4 attached to that y squared. So again, there's no number here in the middle. What two numbers would multiply to a -4 but add up to be 0? And as you can see here, this is another factor tree of -4. And I have these two numbers here. Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. A -2 and a +2 will multiply to a -4, but they'll add up to be 0, right? So these two numbers will go inside the parentheses. The two parentheses here will be a +2 and a -2. And remember, from above, we've got an x and an x. We have an x and an x, and then a y and a y. And then these two numbers here will fill in the gap, which I'll show you on the next page. And don't forget, we factored out that 4. So the 4 that we divided into both of those terms stays on the outside. I'm showing you that here. Okay. And step 3, you use reverse FOIL. That's setting up those two parentheses with that term. Here it's 4 that you factored outside. Right? You divided 4 into both of these terms. You factored out that 4. That 4 is going to remain on the outside. So now I'd like to go and show you what that looks like, and then we will check our answer. So as you can see here, right, I have that +2 and I have a -2. Remember, I had an x times x is x squared, right? And so that +2y times a -2y gives me a -4y squared. X times x gives me x squared. So x squared plus a -4y squared is what you had seen on the previous page. And of course, what did I factored out? The greatest common factor of 4 earlier in those two terms. So that 4 has to stay with us. This is going to be your answer. And in the next part, the next video, I don't like to rush through things, and I've got a limited time per video. What I'd like to do is show you how to check your answers to make sure that these are the correct answers. All right. Thank you for joining me. Math is easy. Take it step by step. Let's check this answer in part 15 video.